All right, guys, welcome to the HANMEDITATIONS podcast. Today we have 5D Fine Arts with us back again for another podcast.
Back at
Every time we can get him on the podcast, we want to get him on because he's so interesting. And we actually had a crazy experience together where Kelly's doing the QHHT process. She's doing the past life. She's really passionate about it. And he came by a couple weeks ago and he got a nice session in from Kelly. So she has to do a certain amount before she can be listed as level 1. And I'm telling you, Kelly's like on the top level already. So she went ahead and did it. And we just wanted to get your experience and how you thought it was.
Yeah. So here's my interesting story, I guess. I mean, so I've had a regression. So it actually is interesting. I had something to compare it to, which is really good also. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because she's done this before. I think we've talked about it on our podcast before, that he had it with another practitioner that just happened to be in the same building that we have our podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't plan it like that.
Yeah.
But the only level 2 in our area just happened to be here, and 5D actually did it with her. So
I want to sum it up. It was a long, what was it, over 2 hours?
Yeah, it was almost 3, probably 2.5.
It's so funny. And then when I got done, they asked me, how long do you think that was? I literally, not joking. I said, I thought it was 30 minutes, right? And then they both laughed. And then I'm like, no, wait, it was probably 40 minutes. They said it was over 2 hours, 2 hours, 30 minutes, something like that. I had lost track of time, but point is, I'm going to try to sum this up a little bit. But the session was intense for me, and I felt it on a deep soul level, and I went somewhere, beautiful. But you know, the first 20 minutes into this session, I felt really interesting. So Kelly, what are the steps into doing the regression? Because it was first you had this.
Well, in the beginning part, and then we actually did it a little different where
we did.
Since I do guided meditations, I said the meditation that Dolores Cannon says to get you into it.
But it's not part of the set protocol. That's just a little extra thing you can do.
And it's like unlocking your chakras and aligning them. And I feel like that really got you to a point where, because you're sensitive to energy.
Yes. And I was sending Reiki while he was doing the meditation.
So it was really like a dual process that really was getting you energized.
We had 2 facilitators. So Kelly and then her husband, so Kelly and Han both combined together, facilitated this for me. So I was sensitive to the energies. Point is, this first part made me feel my leg started. I had these muscle spasms. Yeah, and it started off like, oh, okay, it'll go away after maybe 30 seconds. It lasted the whole time during the meditation, and I was trying to not to mention it, and I didn't want to kind of get out of that state. But my leg literally was spasming, my left leg specifically. And then I was like, maybe there's something that's working through my body. And I'm like, that's just maybe, I don't want to call it coincidence, but it could have just been something that happened. Yeah. And then I got maybe, it was deeper into this process, probably around the 15 minutes going on 20. I literally felt dizzy. I felt like my body there. I was like, I'm thinking to somebody that's shaking the whole bed, the platform that I'm on. It felt like that.
Like you're rocking.
It felt like my body was like, a little bit dizzy, not too quite, or disoriented, but dizzy, little, like I'm moving. Like I felt like I was moving. So the first part of the session maybe involved the part where you're kind of going into the deep, you're on a cloud. Yeah. You're getting into a state, what they call the gamma, right?
And then you're getting into the theta
state. The deepest theta,
Theta state, but then gamma is the final state, right?
Gamma, I believe, is
gamma. Theta's the deepest state that you go into in this, where you're kind of conscious.
Oh, let's get it right.
I think gamma is when you're actually asleep.
But your theta, I believe, is you're awake, but you're in almost a sleep state where you can communicate.
But that means that's the state when you're channeling and you're able to be receptive. So that's the point.
So at that point, when you dropped off the cloud,
I dropped off the cloud to get me to the point we had to go through this whole, this whole visualization or process to get me there. So I felt like dizzy, and then all of a sudden the spasms are still going on, but I felt like, let me go through it. Whatever's going to happen, let it happen. But I had point is, I had 3 lives in this regression, and
did you have 3
somewhere? I had 3.
2 actually.
I don't remember.
One of them looked like it was a second kind of life, but then it transitioned into a full life. It was really interesting how you transitioned.
This was all recorded, so they recorded me. I felt like they said, do you remember the second life or third? I said, like, for me, I don't know. I remember the first maybe life, but what I'm saying is I went somewhere because during these regressions, when you completely finally let go and let the soul do its job, go into the higher mind, go into like this chilling state, your soul is always, your soul remembers. It's all knowing. So that comes through during these sessions. So during that like 2 hours or so, I mean, man, it was like, it was deep. And it was deep. I think, how do I describe it? How do I say these lives, or all three of these lives? First life was in the I feel like ancient time. I mean, it could have been somewhere similar to the Mayans, could have been them, or on another place, timeline, or planet. But second life, there was like, it actually involved, I think from what I know, ETs. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
From what I know, it was like something extraterrestrial.
It wasn't something from this earth at all.
I think that it was like, they said, how does my body feel? I had trouble describing concepts after a while. And then there was like a third life where I really had trouble understanding concepts. And then it was like,
well, I think the second life was just one. I think it just led into another life, kind of.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of in different places.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I don't know, but it seemed like to me, because that was my first time listening in on one.
Yeah.
Without actually doing the full thing. But it seemed like that life was a second life, and then it led into the one that you're calling the third. But I feel like that was all one life. I think because at first you were talking about you're just kind of in space. You don't know what's going on. You see these stars. You're literally in space. You didn't know if you were in a spaceship or what, but you feel like you're in a spaceship. But I felt like there was, it didn't make sense any other way.
There was like this organic and then machine type mergence. With the being, whatever, with the being I was. But I think what's so interesting is the information coming through, and then once you listen to these recordings, because I mean, there was things I was mentioning about, solar flares. I kept talking about their stuff revolving out in the sun and the solar system. And I mean, it was very profound. But I think
because you were taking in so much information so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like quick, and you're moving from this planet to that planet. You're speaking with a council of beings, and you're informing them on the importance of the solar flares and the star. And everyone was very interested in the life of this star. And
so follow us, y'all.
It's like your job, basically.
Yeah, it was so interesting because they were so much more advanced than we are here. But there was an element of, guess what? These stars and these planets, especially these stars, have their own life path in a sense where they almost have their own free will, where there's a level of unpredictability with them that you can't really fully understand, no matter how much technology you have. There's a level of unpredictability with that kind of stars and with these kind of huge planetary alignments that you were sitting there and observing this whole time.
So basically it felt so vast with, imagine just space and what we know about space. Imagine knowing that there's other galaxies, and there's other universes, there's other dimensions, and there's other, basically it's like quantum physics. That's mind-boggling in its own, but then when you probably get a visualization of that, that's what I felt like I was going through with the process. It was like, I feel like the information was a lot. It was like a lot to process. It was coming in fast with the regression, and it put me into this state where my brain was so relaxed, and I felt like a lot can come through. I was receptive to energies, information. So follow us, viewers, because I know it's tinfoil hat time. So
I mean, it was going quick. I mean, if you're listening to this, they understand.
Try to follow.
These people, they understand this kind of.
It's interesting, but I think most of the time, based off what Dolores Cannon says, it's actually quite common. And when you research a lot of the regressions, a lot of stuff, everybody's life and what they experience in other lives, and what comes through to them is different, but there's similarities across the board. And all of us in this room realize that.
Yeah.
And for me, I've never had a regression, but I realized this stuff, there's some, you're going somewhere. It's like astral projecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more you listen to it, the more you get from it. So did you listen to your session back?
To be honest, it was a long session. I I listened.
Did you listen to all of it?
I remember most of it, but the parts that I didn't remember, I had to go ahead and skip because I had 2 hours and 30 minutes on record. So I had to go and say like, what were the parts that where I kind of felt like were blurred to me? Meaning like when it got to the lives, I'm like, at that point, the guys asked me questions. I'm like, I kind of don't know. I have to listen.
Did you re-listen to it though?
Yeah.
And what did you think the second time you listened to it? Did you start getting more information?
Oh, more information?
Were you able to see
like
anything?
More kind of like tap into the lives and understand it more, the lessons or anything.
Let me tell you, the funny thing is, I say I just had to process what was being heard because, for example, how I am, or I could just speak for myself, but if somebody says, I know how to play piano, but if somebody says, like, sit down, go ahead, play, show me something, for me to do that on spot, it would be difficult. I had to really tap in. And it's like somebody says, all right, do something amazing right now, paint in front of me. I got to wait. I really got to be tapped in. And maybe that's just how I operate.
Yeah, definitely.
So for this information to flow, it's like definitely a process for sure. And if I hear it, even though I hear it, I don't know if it'll make me tap into it again. I got to go through the whole process again. But I think that's how a lot of other people could operate.
Yeah, I mean, I needed to process a little bit too when I first heard it. It's just a lot of energy going through. For me, it was just a massive amount of energy and healing that was going through my body where I'm like, all right, I just need a couple of days to just process and, get it going. But it was interesting because your life essentially was like a cyborg where it was as you said, an organic being, but also mixed with technology. So you were able to calculate this information so quickly, and it coincided with your life now where you have a very fast metabolism. You can play the piano, you can do certain things that you're just able to do, it's just programmed in your brain. You can just do it out of nowhere.
You know why it's so funny? Because this is why people, when they say, let's, can we try to do a regression with you, and they say I'm scared or I'm timid, and this is maybe why. And it's like people may not understand what
some people aren't ready for
from it. Yeah.
But you're ready for it. That's why the information came out.
Yeah.
And it was saying that you need to meditate because meditation is going to slow down that process where you're so used to computing information so quickly. In other worlds, now in this life, that's translating to really fast metabolism. It's translating to you need to just slow down your body and meditate and slow things down a little bit, which I thought was very interesting to get that perspective. And when your higher mind came out, it was really cool kind of how it switched, because whenever I did the regression, it was talking about you and it was talking about your higher mind and the level that you are at, not the level spiritually, but the level of the brain waves that you're at. Because in the beginning of it, you were at like in the deeper mind state, which is like you're saying I, and then it switched over to the higher mind state when you started saying he and started talking about yourself in the third person, and you could see the switch right then and there. So
now let me put this into perspective for your viewers. I always like putting it in perspective, but let's talk about channeler Daryl Anka, okay?
Oh yeah.
Who channels Bashar, who those who know, but he had this whole documentary about what happens to him during the channel state. There were literally scientists in the room that measured his brainwave activity during these channeling sessions, put a whole cap on his head, looked like something from outer space, had like little, wires.
Yeah, the wires connected. Yeah.
But he was in these states of channeling. His brain literally went like went across the board as far as how his activity went from from what I believe it was
I think it said he was in the state of
let's get the terms right. What is it? So
I believe it said he was in the state of it was like just whenever like high level athletes get into that mind state, and it's a certain I'm at a loss for words right now, but it's the flow state. He got into the flow state, which most people only experience for a couple seconds at a time. Yeah, he's able to do this for hours at a time.
So they were able to measure that on the whole monitor on a computer screen and say, "Oh wow!" And then the scientists are like, "Oh wow, this may be why it's possible that he can get so much information out of his brain, because his brain reached the. Please tell me is it gamma."
It was like the top level state of consciousness where he could just get the information.
Yeah, where the athletes, like you said, are receptive. So he got to that state.
So that ultimate flow state.
And basically that's what happens from these regressions.
Yeah,
it's a similar exact thing.
Exactly.
I didn't understand it until literally it happened to me, and then I'm like, oh, this is how people can come and be out and be like a Michael Jordan, or they can go out and then just be like
the best that ever lived.
Ask questions
because you're in that state.
Yeah, it's literally you're.
I'm interested to know what it was like from your perspective, Kelly. Because you're being so quiet today.
Yeah. Because I know
Kelly gets quiet whenever we're on. She just doesn't talk.
Kelly's an observer.
I literally am talking.
She's an observer and taking it all in, but we got to hear from you because you were the one doing all the questions and the one who facilitated. Yeah,
you're the expert, so we want to hear from you.
I actually am very curious.
I mean, I love doing the regressions. It's just
how'd you not hypnotise yourself? No, not well. How'd you not go under? Like not hypnotize?
Bro, I mean, I'm not gonna say I was gonna go under, but I kind of started feeling relaxed.
Yeah, like how'd you not relax yourself, like yourself? Like.
Yeah, because you're actually not supposed to listen to the recording while driving because you can kind of start to like go under. But I don't record the induction part, which is the part that makes you go under. But
well, your whole voice just had to be calming. Your voice is. On the recording, like so soothing. It's like how you listen to like one of those recorded tracks of like, you know, the waves crushing against water. It's like that in the voice. You know, Kelly had to be that voice to be able to have, you know, facilitate that.
The voice is like pretty much the whole most important part to get someone into the state.
Yeah.
And then once they're there, the second most important part is the questions you ask, because it's not up to me. It's not up to your conscious mind what life you're going to go to, what you're going to learn, why you're seeing it. It's your own higher mind is picking the lives for a particular reason at this session because it's most best to serve you. And of course, your highest mind knows best. But it's up to me to just ask the questions to get all the information out that it needs to come out. But it got a little funny with your past life because I guess I asked a little too many questions.
Well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. But this is how I wanted to get your perspective on his life.
This is where it gets so funny.
Well, it's just never expected for me. I mean, I guess some things a little bit, but it's just fascinating. And what I like about it is that I really love helping people like see who they truly are, who their soul is, who their true higher mind is, and connect with that. And I just kind of feel like that is a little bit of my particular purpose as a practitioner of it, that I'm going to help people find a source to their higher self in one of these lives. And so far it's been really, really interesting lives that have come up. But I like how also with 5D's subconscious part, we started tapping into some really cool information too. I don't know if you remember but even outside of your own questions, we started tapping into really cool information just about how the world works.
They were deep things. So I think to sum it up, I think the bullet points for the info I remember I was talking about a lot about the solar flares. I felt like the flares, I think something about the sun I felt like was intensifying. And there were other basically what I felt like beings who were actually aware of that. Then I got involved with, we started talking about, was it rejuvenation chambers, or about how in the ancient past, they had technologies basically that, basically there's nothing new under the sun. So I was saying how in the past, they knew about how to heal properly, how to rejuvenate the body, how basically whenever you heard about these mythology, like, or the gods were like, they were coming back or living for hundreds and thousands of years. They knew this technology how to rejuvenate. Yeah,
you're talking about all that. Talking about living in caves and underground and hollow mountains. You're talking about all that kind of information in
you're
there.
Refreshing me. So I got into this stuff about the rejuvenating the body. How there was like, that's an old technology where like basically what we would call Thoth Tahuti, something like that, who would know how to do that and live for thousands of years. Then there's also the information that said about tunnel systems, how there's even the Native Americans confirmed that there's underground like tunnels and caverns and caves where you can get to one place in, for example, like the desert in the Southwest to the other part without having to resurface. And from what I understand, there's indigenous people who know about it, but also there were beings, and there were probably like the ETs or civilizations before that knew about that. And that's the information that's lost, you know?
Yeah, you were saying there's one underneath the Denver airport, which there is a lot of like conspiracy theories with that airport.
To my understanding, there was like, so these underground tunnels were linked. And that's why, for example, if you look up the Denver airport, talk about, I mean, you know, phenomenon, it's like that airport, they don't even hide anymore. It's like they're literally hiding. They literally have underground either bunkers or these tunnel systems that are connected to ancient tunnel systems. So Denver is really tricky because, you know, even going in the airport, there's a lot of different.
We've been to that one too.
There's weird artwork on the wall.
It's so busy. Why is it so busy too?
Yeah, it's like
the busiest airport in the world somehow.
Apparently,
like,
it's like one of those central
airport,
passing through airports.
Yeah, there's more to that airport, and it's
there's like weird artwork there and all types of stuff. But
it's strategically placed. There's no mistake to that. But I remember remember the artwork they had a lot of this weird Masonic stuff or stuff that was really kind of like this double entendre, telling a message type thing on their wall, like on their walls. But
what I found interesting in your past life is when you were talking about that material. Do you remember that? You started talking about that material that was like petrified wood almost.
Yeah, so these lives were let you see these, like they'll let you see things, and it's like to grab a concept of what you're seeing. Imagine you're going somewhere and like you can't even describe what the animal is, what the material is, like what kind of tree. So it was like that. So I was seeing the material in my first life, and I'm thinking this is the type of wood, and then all of a sudden I see there's like I had a vision there of a building. It was like this obelisk type shape, yet not a pyramid, but at the top it was tapering off at the top, but not quite like a pyramid. So I saw that and I'm like, this isn't like wood, it's some other material. And I said, it's actually another element. And in this past life, I actually was going through warfare. The warfare ended up being basically primarily surrounding like, you know, revolving around the element.
The source, yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, like, wow. I mean, to the best describe it, it's like, Kelly said, well, hey, that's like, sounds like the Mayans, but I don't know. It seemed like it could have been cousins to them.
Right.
But at that point,
I mean, your subconscious was saying it was on like a sister planet.
Yeah, it's like a sister planet. So I don't know if that's another dimension, or I know there's like planets around the Pleiades that are really similar to Earth.
The funny thing about, remember the ancient Mayans.
How do you know that?
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I just know. I learned somewhere.
What the hell?
See, I know you won't be quiet for long, Kelly. So the ancient Mayans, nobody really knows where they went. Remember how they said like
they just disappeared.
Yeah, like what they mean they disappeared?
I think I remember maybe Bashar or something was saying either the Mayans
Convoluted Universe.
Yeah, Convoluted Universe or something. One of these books that I was reading or people I was listening to that I trust was saying that once you can get to a certain level of enlightenment, as a group of people, you can just go. Essentially, like you're ready to just go to the new Earth or wherever it is and just disappear and go.
Pretty much went to the 5D.
This is what, you know, people who understand metaphysics understand or spirituality understand. But when you hear it in school, they're like, well, the civilization just disappeared. Or a professor would say, like, yeah, we don't know where they went. I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm listening.
Yeah, I mean, that's
it doesn't make sense.
Teacher, like, what do you mean? Where'd they go?
It's like the Bermuda Triangle.
And it's like ships disappear, but then that's all they tell you. When you go deep into it, there's more, the truth is stranger than fiction. The Bermudas where there was, they're finding pyramids underneath the ocean. So there's civilizations, obviously, that used to live there. Then maybe there were technologies that are still active. So put that, you know, together. Like there were,
what they say, type thing.
The Atlanteans knew about. Yeah, there were portals or crystals that were still active that were causing issues with the magnetism of these, you know, ships.
It's so crazy, man.
And I saw your post about the crop circles.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too.
Those really do get crazy. Yeah. I never even realized how intricate those get.
That right there came in. I said, something kept telling me you gotta make something about the crop circles. Just post it. It's the time. It's 2020. It's 2024. I want to get. I like getting people thinking and add little teasers in there. So I had a crop circle video about the phenomena just to get people's brain going, like what, okay, like we're seeing beautiful pieces of artwork in cornfields, like who makes it, how are they coming about? I'm saying like this is I'm thinking it's otherworldly beings who are doing it. So I just said, I said is think about it. I just said at the bottom, I said crop circles, a beautiful beautiful, works of art. But I said, any ideas? ? But nobody said anything yet.
I did.
I was hoping for comments. Yeah, Kelly. And I want to have more. I want to hear from people who maybe not into that or who research that. I want to know what they think. Because
I'm gonna repost it.
Nobody said anything.
Our YouTube or something.
Maybe people think it's a hoax or I
No, I think some of them are. I think some of them are hoaxes, but I think a lot of the complicated ones are. The complicated ones are
complicated.
So. Complex ones are from out of the earth, literally. But the thing is, they've even had it on video. If you look close at when I posted it, there's a small video in England where there's an orb floating across the cornfield. One point, there's no crop circle. 10 seconds later in the video, there's a crop circle forming. Not even 10 seconds later in the video, the orb is forming the lines in this greenery underneath it. So it's forming the crop circle underneath our eyes. So that's the video they disclosed to us. Imagine what else they have that we haven't been disclosed to. I think that was even on History Channel. I mean, most people think it's more official if it's on mainstream, but there you go. But it's like, that's just what they show us. But crop circles, I'm telling you, that stuff is interesting. When you look at how they bend the actual grain, the corn stalk, it's bent at a 90-degree angle. It's not even like somebody walked on it. It's like not flat, it's not curved.
Like it's not like it's snapped or something.
Literally like this like 90-degree angle. So, and it's still alive, I think. It's still actually like it's not dead.
Wow. I mean, to me, it's the size of some of these things. I mean,
massive,
like miles long. Like you're telling me someone just for whatever reason spent all night individually doing all these things miles wide, all these different shapes and designs.
There's not enough time in the day.
No. There was this being, they called it like this this crop circle being. It looked like some type of devil. And they said he would come at night and then just do it. No, that's what they thought back in like the 1700s. But there were people who, all right, so the hoaxers were able to complete the crop circle. There are people who can do it, but nowhere near, like Han said, like the complexity of the ships or the advanced.
Yeah, there's some that are just so complex. It's
and they have messages in them. There's
encoded messages
in them. Yeah.
It's like
people don't understand these symbols, and how important symbols are.
Yeah, and they say mathematics is a universal language, so the beings will put mathematics into the crop circles, or some type of coding. So what do you call it? Some type of
they encrypt like messages in there.
What's the 0 and 1s? That's
the code to the It's like almost like the DNA of the internet and stuff.
But it's called
I don't think I know that.
It's called something. It'll come back to me, but
yeah.
I mean, they did talk about it in the convoluted universe, and the guy who was under first, it was like a lot of energy, and he had to like actually wake up for a second and like get some water.
Yeah.
Then he went back under, but they were saying like sometimes people can go in there and just kind of feel like sick and all these things. It's just a lot of energy, but for his channel, what came out is he said basically it's like another ET type of being, kind of like on another dimension here, and they're kind of almost like a technological type being, and they can come in and like see us, but we can't see them, and that they've just been kind of doing it. It's like artwork to them, but also to leave messages with us. So,
Han, do you remember that?
That's interesting. Kelly read more than I did on the convoluted universe. So I'm not too sure about that, but I do love crop circles and I'd like to get more of it.
I mean, as an artist, as a visual artist, I'm like, man, these are amazing. Like, who's the artist? Yeah. Can you sign your signature for me? Can I get another one?
I mean, some of them are just so beautiful.
I mean, yeah.
And you guys got to check out that video. What's your Instagram that you posted it on?
It's 5, just the number 5, and then Fine Arts, FINE. And then arts,
5D, Fine Arts.
Sorry, 5D, yes. 5, then D, Fine Arts.
The letter D.
And that's on the Instagram platform. So,
yeah, that was really
have it
good.
below.
So,
we'll
have to definitely
added music to it, man. I just had to share that, get people thinking.
But I want to talk about the experience that I had with my past lives. And we're going to transcript these and kind of like put voices over them and post them to the channel, and of course write books because we're having so many cool experiences. But I did, after 5D did one, I did one that was a long session too. That was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. The next day I was like, I got to get under and see, because I never let Kelly really do it for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always so busy. I'm like, yo, I got an hour. Go ahead and do what you have to do. And then, then I got to go.
But my question is, I have two. So what did that feel like to you when you got out of it? Did you have the same experience as me? Was it like an instant?
Yeah, I felt like mine was like an hour and a half. But it was like I was incorporating into it that it feels quicker.
Right.
So if I didn't know like that we're gonna go for a long time, I might have said 45 minutes or something. But it didn't feel like close to 3 hours, not at all.
I mean,
because the whole process was over 3 hours.
Even to me, it doesn't feel that long. I think I'm just like in the moment, and I generally enjoy.
Oh, you're
it.
so in the moment.
Question. I'm like, what is Kelly?
In a
what
flow
are you
state myself.
Yeah, like how do you
so in the moment?
You do that, facilitate that, and ask questions, and I'm like, yeah, how does that feel? I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah,
it feels so fun. I mean, even really whenever I want to do one with me where you're in the room.
Yeah.
Because you did. I was in the room when you did, because you can ask questions too. Yeah. Because I was asking a lot of the questions that were getting asked. I was telling Kelly, yo, say this, ask that.
Yeah.
Because I know you. You know what I mean? So I knew you wanted to know about this and that. And so on and so forth. So,
and I have to say,
profound, seriously.
Yeah. And I have to say, having, done it for people myself and have it done on myself, I definitely see that perspective of like when it's you under, you can't help but just feel like, did I make it all up? But when you have the person under,
there's no doubt.
No doubt in my mind.
For some reason, there's like no doubt in your mind.
Yeah,
whenever you're
so
watching
profound.
someone else, so if you're thinking in your head, is that real? But to us, it's like, that is 100%.
Especially when people's subconscious comes out.
Yeah, because even me, I'm like, man, I don't, you know what I mean? Because you're thinking like, do I just want to have a cool life?
So to explain to the viewers, like your average person will automatically be skeptic themselves. I mean, all of us in the room were, but what Han is saying, when you get to like the your higher mind, the higher conscious, he was saying that's literally probably maybe an hour into the session.
Like I really want him to hear mine, because mine was so crazy.
We should play a little.
Woo!
That's when it flies. Are you gonna play some or?
So let me just say like what happened.
Why don't you recap?
So my first life, I was an explorer, and I just saw, she's asking me these questions. I see these boots on my feet. I look down, I'm in the sand. I'm like kind of hot and uncomfortable. I'm like, I might take these boots off because this is crazy. And I look up, I see the Pyramid of Giza. I'm in Egypt. And like Kelly said, of course you're thinking, oh, of course, I just want a life in Egypt. I love this kind of information. Exactly. So I'm just making this up. But I really went into it this time and just said, I don't care what my physical mind is thinking. I'm just going to let it go, and whatever comes. Yeah. I'm not creating a situation in my head, but it just comes up naturally. Mm-hmm. So when she drops you off on the cloud and then I see it, oh, there's a Pyramid of Giza. I'm just going to say it.
Mentally, physically relaxed fully. And then
for sure. So you're already relaxed in that state. So I'm like, I'm just going to say whatever is coming up. Yeah. So it turns out I was laughing because I looked down and I'm like, she's like, what do you look like? I'm like, I'm white, and I'm like laughing like, what's going on,
So I remember that part.
This is different.
Yeah, so it was funny. So and I could tell I had like a mustache. I was white man, and it felt like it was like the 1800s.
That's funny.
And what my goal was in that life was to go into the pyramids. Yeah. And kind of explore and see how deep and how far I could get into the pyramid. Mm-hmm. So what I would do, I would go check it out, and then I would go with my crew. We'd camp on the outside of it. And we had a nice little encampment, and then we would go in. We'd go in with 2 locals that were kind of experienced in that area, and then with maybe 3 or 4 other guys that were from Europe. So we go into the pyramid, and we had a way that we could kind of track it. I was worried. I had these torches. It was smoky. It was, you couldn't really see what was going on, but we went as far and as deep as we could go. Everyone's kind of scared. Everyone's a little bit nervous because even the guys that we were with, the local guys, they weren't experts themselves. So they were kind of like, we're like, these guys don't know just as much as us. I mean, this was built thousands of years ago. What do they really know?
Han was explaining this and I was listening to it myself, and he's like, what, did you finish? I'm like, I had to go back because it was so interesting. And I went back again because I'm literally like reading or hearing like some of the most interesting stories. And
sounds like a book.
Yeah. And I'm like, and it's also for me, literally like studying history, I'm like, a lot of it is literally adding up to historical like timelines. When he was like,
we're gonna get
like,
to
I think King George was he was in his reign. And
exactly.
Like, that's when they were literally.
Yeah, I was saying because I said I was like, I think
Egypt at that point. Yeah,
I told her, I was like, I think King George sent us here
just totally random
to do this, and I know about history, but I don't,
specific.
I really like French history. I like reading about Voltaire, the Enlightenment period. I like reading, some American history, but I'm not like a huge history guy, but I try and stay educated on certain topics. So I don't know if this is adding up in the timeline or what. I'm just saying that. But it was crazy because then we went to the Sphinx. We're like looking at the paw, we're looking at all this different stuff, and then we go in there and I'm saying like, if you're lucky, you can take home like a golden scarab or something like that. And we ended up taking down statues and bringing things back on a boat back to King George, and I could feel that there was a military presence there. I wasn't in the military, but I could kind of feel that was what was going on in that time.
Well, so the interesting thing is whenever I believe it was early 1800s. I mean, a lot of the troops from Europe were
late 1700s, early 1800s.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
they were going into Egypt doing those exact same things, and they spent a lot of time in the pyramids. And it was like Napoleon had a real strong connection with the pyramids himself. And then, I mean, he would go in there, he would like seek answers and all these things. I mean, he would.
Was that you that was telling me about Napoleon when they reached?
Yeah,
I told you.
Yeah, because I mean, so Bashar, Daryl Anka's channel, Bashar, he mentioned, he was like, Napoleon went to the pyramids at one point. He went in and he's actually had a vision. He actually had a vision of his actual defeat in the Great Pyramid. Wow. And I mean, because I mean, it's the most interesting thing. I know Napoleon went there. He had spent like months and months over there. But I always wondered like what really happened. I know they were getting, pillaging and getting things and treasures and all that. But what experience did he have spiritually, like, because the pyramids hold a certain energy.
Yeah,
and you probably felt that with your
man. Where was I reading this? It's got to be somewhere Dolores Cannon or somewhere. Bashar something was saying that there is, maybe it was something from Billy Carson or something, but there's an energy in the pyramids, and when the right person goes in there, certain things are going to be revealed to them.
Yeah.
So that actually happened to, I know, Aleister Crowley.
Oh,
not an energy we're associated with, but I just know this, that he saw a vision there as well. And he, that's where he met his being that he would channel or whatever. And he also drew it and it totally looked like an alien.
Oh, wow.
But he said it was some Egyptian god or something. Crowley.
Oh, wow.
So there's energy there for sure.
Yes.
I mean, my actual subconscious said that we're going to go to Egypt this year.
Yeah.
So it was saying that.
That was pretty
So that's why I was showing. But anyways, I ended up.
Passport's ready.
Exactly. So I ended up leaving and then going back to my family in that life. And I don't know. I was kind of like an explorer. I wasn't really with my family that much, but Kelly alluded to it earlier because she kept asking me questions and I was getting annoyed as that person. I'm like kind of being rude. Like, why are you asking me this? That's a dumb question. Like, how do you think we travel around? Of course, just by a boat.
That part tickled me a little. I just kept listening for that guy said. It was so intriguing. I mean, I had to go back.
Well, there's a couple things with that because number one, in this life, you don't like getting asked a lot of questions.
No, I really don't.
So if someone starts asking a lot of questions, you start to just get a little annoyed or whatever. But number two, when you're in these past lives, like you're truly in that life, like your concept of everything now, like airplanes and driving, whatever, it's non-existent. So he's like, oh, I'm heading on the ship back home. I'm like, oh, across the sea. He's like, yeah, obviously, or something. Because it's like, because me now, I kind of forget like, oh yeah, obviously would be the only option. But from him, it's like, yeah, like how nothing else exists.
I mean, to me, it wasn't even like, it's just like, where else is the boat gonna go?
Right.
Like, I'm telling you, I'm on a boat. Where do you think boats travel?
But I also didn't know if you were on a new trip or,
Yeah, but anyways, I go home to my family. You fast forward me, I'm seeing like the birth of a son or something. And I had a little family there, but I was always leaving them and going on these like excursions on some Indiana Jones type stuff. Months on end, just leaving them for years at a time. And when she fast forwarded me to the end of my life in that period, what happened was I was on a ship. It was nighttime. We were heading to Paris, I believe. or to France to dock, and we were far out somewhere in the ocean. And what happened was a storm came and ended up destroying the boat, and we all died. But it was I wasn't scared. I was just like, oh, this is the life of an adventurer.
Like
oh well,
like
you know,
in a big VR, and it's like you're a part of.
Yeah, that's what it's like. And I was
like, you even had mentioned like, man, this is actually thrilling and scary, but exciting. And
yeah, like I was excited. I wasn't scared of death or anything, but I was like, I shouldn't have came. I took it too far. You know, I was like, I was just addicted to seeking that thrill. You know, so
for the viewers here, like even I could just say maybe for Han or maybe me or Kelly, but it's like for me coming into it, it's so real. You feel the energy when they do their Reiki initially. That just on top of that, but it's like when you come down, I remember Kelly's like the process of coming down to your body, coming out of these states.
Yeah,
I never forget. Like you could vouch for me, but I came out of it and I ended up like coughing. I ended up like, feeling my body more. I'm like, this part of the body stiff now. As soon as I think
he had a big cough at that time.
Right when it's
big cough.
I didn't cough.
And he didn't cough one time during the thing. And then whenever he came out, he's coughing all loud and hard. It was like, whoa, this is crazy.
It's like, you know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you're awake. It's like,
yeah.
No exaggeration.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's crazy, man.
That right there, I just was like, look, okay, I get it. I had to be through that trial to just know, like, this is something otherworldly.
It really is crazy, guys. You have to experience it. So reach out to us and Kelly, and she can book a session because she's really good.
Also, do your own research on these sessions. I mean, this stuff's been going on for decades and decades beyond Dolores Cannon, and then
Kelly's the next one to take up this mantle, guys. I'm telling you, she's getting this information. She's surrounded by a group of people that are experiencing crazy things. And like when you hear 5D's story, when you hear my story, whenever you hear Jess's story, the girl that we've had on the podcast and the show before, who she did. I mean, these are all crazy experiences.
I haven't even really had a normal, typical, past life client yet. So
I think that people viewers need to know too. We're channeling in our, a lot of people can channel in their daily lives.
I mean, you're always channeling your personality.
I tell you, perfect examples. Think about a freestyle rapper, people who could just, pick up words that rhyme out of nowhere from thin air, just keep going and there's like a chain and connect all that and make it make sense. And then picture your people who are doing like they're, jazz musicians are just going and they're in that flow. Like even for myself, I could play the piano, but some songs I literally feel like I don't know how to play again, or I have to record it. And I don't know that it's even me. Some paintings, if I paint something, sometimes I don't even say like, hey, I'm like, how did I do that? You're tapping into something. We're tapping into stuff.
No, you really are. Right. And that's the fun thing about it and the crazy thing about it.
Get into perspective. But yeah, it's fun.
So
it's fun.
Yeah. So my second life that Kelly got was another life where I came into it and I was a child. And I was on a boat and I was like, oh, I'm on another boat. What's going on? But very clearly I could see this was like a Viking ship. So it was like a Viking type ship. And we were heading, I knew exactly what was going on. It was like we were heading on a 2-week trip for hunting that you take your son on so you can kind of learn and experience it once they get to about 8 years old or so. And the first time actually leaving for an extended period on a boat. And then she fast forwarded me, and then I was having my inauguration into adulthood, in which I was becoming an adult. And it was a ceremony. A ceremony in which we had to conjure up this kind of spirit animal that's going to go into war with us, a battle, and kind of reenact it. And it was a really cool kind of thing, just experiencing that.
In the dining hall.
In the dining hall, and there's a feast, and you eat a lot of meat, and you're drinking this low alcohol beer, and it was just it's just fun times.
Like 99% Viking for sure.
Yeah, that was pure Viking life.
Definitely.
And then she fast forwarded me again, and I was in war, and I was just killing so many people, and I was good at it, and I was a warrior, and I was slaughtering, and people were it was just chaos all around me. And Kelly's asking me like, who's your God and what does he worship? And I was like, we worship God, but our God's a warrior. And it was that kind of life where it was like, our God's a warrior, and he likes when he likes our killing and all this stuff. Like this, this is how we survive.
The universe
and live.
has a sense of humor too. And I was playing replaying Han's session, and it's about this like life as a Viking, right? But the universe will tell you if you're in synchronicity or not. So I like all of a sudden I tuned into my favorite show, Expedition Unknown. It was like one like season 12 or something. But the 6th episode ended up being, I never even saw it before, but it ended up being about Vikings.
and that's the kind of synchronicity that are happening whenever you're going through this.
Because we had to record it on my phone and I just played it on the TV, and then the session just automatically lined up. I'm like, this is no mistake. I gotta learn more about Vikings.
Isn't that crazy?
That is.
So,
I'm in tune. So like
so that just shows you, goes to show you, because even for me, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I just like Vikings, and because I might even on my ancestry says I'm 10% Scandinavian. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that came. Both my parents are black. It says I'm 10% Scandinavian. And one of the first comics I made was about a Viking named Soku. So it's really interesting. But anyways, so at that life, she fast forwarded me again. What happened was I was baptizing my son in water. And Kelly's like, is that something you guys kind of do as your ritual or whatever? And I was like, no, I don't want him to be a warrior like me. And what had happened was in that life, I ended up meeting a priest, and he converted me to Christianity. And I didn't want to live a life of a warrior and killing and slaughtering people anymore. I wanted to live a simple life. So I had one wife and one son, and I moved them over. And in that life, Kelly was actually my wife in that life, not in the first life, but in this life she was. So we had a little spot by the water. It was just a one room, basically hut that we lived in with our kid. And I didn't want to live in the town because I was like, these are the people I was killing and murdering. So it was just, not a good situation. So, and I kind of just felt guilty about it. It wasn't like I was like, I just felt like it wasn't my place to be there.
Right.
So she fast forwards me again. And what ends up happening is to my last day of my life, I'm dying and I'm with my son, but I'm in the town now because my son had convinced me to move into the town. So I moved into the town with him, and that was my last day on that planet in that life. And it was just really interesting because whenever we got to the subconscious level, Kelly's asking all these questions. She's asking in the first life, what time period was it? It was saying it was in the early 1800s, maybe even a little bit earlier. And that lines up with exactly when King George III was there. And then she's asking who, why, and it was saying why I'm connected to different saints. And it was saying that I met a saint in that life, and he's the one that converted me to Christianity. And the saint that I met was Saint James. So it's giving us all this information and telling us this information. And I was in the subconscious level for like over an hour, just going on and on, talking to Kelly, telling her this information, talking about 5D and his energy and what his energy is like, and saying he has a more cyborgian type energy that's able to process information and he's good at these different tasks. So saying
energy, your energy.
Her energy is more like water. It's able to heal. It's able to flow. And my energy is more of like a chameleon like energy where I'm able to be whatever I need to be when I need to be it, because in my sleep, and what my job is to do is to facilitate enlightenment through different people. That's what I'm doing when I'm sleeping, playing with these different energies. So I'm able to kind of take different energy on and be whatever I need to be when I need to be it, which is just the most interesting thing to me. And it was just so cool being in that state where it's like this a pure channel. I'm talking, I'm answering Kelly's question. And there was a really crazy moment in there when Kelly's asking about healing. And then my subconscious mind healed Kelly and didn't say anything. And Kelly was like, did you just heal me?
Yeah.
Without her.
Yeah, I could and then
feel it,
the subconscious was saying, he's like, oh, you're very, very perceptive to this kind of energy.
I felt it.
Like it really healed Kelly, and she felt it without saying anything. Yeah. And it was like really crazy.
And how you looked up King George Egypt.
Yeah, I looked up King George Egypt, and it was saying, and it popped up, it said King George statue from Egypt or something like that. The statue he had in a museum from Egypt. And the last scene I saw, we were taking down a statue to give to King George. Yeah. And that was like the first thing that came up whenever I looked up King George III, who was the last king over America before we rebelled and took over. So it's such a crazy and interesting reality, but we're going to get into so much more of this information, guys. We're going to keep going it. I mean, we have so much to talk about. While 5D's here, I mean, we're going to get into the Epstein list, the Epstein Island stuff. That we're going to go look over that. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that, guys, because we have a lot of information to talk about.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the world now. We're entering 2024 to keep it relevant. I mean, sometimes not always daisies and sunshine. We got
exactly
the truth that's coming out with celebrities now.
And it's getting crazy, guys. Yeah, so just keep staying tuned to this because we're going to get bigger and bigger. We're going to get better and better. We've already gotten so much better at communicating and relaying our points to everybody. So we're just so happy to be here. Thank you guys for being here in another episode. We're going to keep talking about our past lives. Anything else you guys want to say before we head out?
Oh, are we going to talk? Is that just going to be a different video?
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that now.
All right, well, go ahead. You first.
I mean, yeah, I did a session. Han actually did me to go under, but we can just say that next time.
Oh, yes, another whole nother.
So we'll get into mine on the next episode.
They're turning the lights off, so I don't know when they were.
But yeah, so like and like and subscribe, but also we want the viewers to do your own research. Mm-hmm. Let this spark your interest, and also hopefully spark, get you motivated to do the research into these topics. I mean, this stuff is very, very, it's becoming almost normalized. I mean, now it's like the more of us that wake up. Research a lot about regressions. Who is Dolores Cannon? Who is Daranka? Who are
exactly?
Try to go ahead and do this research, and you'll get a better grasp on this stuff if you don't know already.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Right. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye bye. Till next time.